Let us begin the meeting of Village Trustees, North Bennington, March 11, 2014. Sorry, I had to find my agenda there. No, that's not it. Do you have a hard copy of the?
Do you want a paper one? Yeah.
That's the date.
This is what I want. All right, first item, as it always is, review and approval of the minutes of the February 11. There it is.
You weren't there, right?
I was not there.
Yeah.
I'll move we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Review the monthly warrant and approve the payment of the bills.
We had two sections today. There was a special meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
special meeting, the minutes from the special meeting, right?
I have to
That's
let
what
me
you're
get
talking
caught up here. Just a minute. Discuss amongst yourselves.
That was to discuss the amount we're going to put in the budget for the...
Right. Totally lost her.
Let's see.
Okay. And the minutes for the special meeting. I will entertain a motion for that.
I move we approve the minutes for the special meeting of February 11th.
Do we have one question. Did we ever look into whether we could open that up as a line of credit instead of just an outright?
I tried to call the bank and no one was, they're out until tomorrow, so.
Okay. So then I will second accepting those.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now the warrant.
I had one on it. I did check into the Kelly Fuels accounts. So that $100, that bill came again to us, Lori?
They're coupon booklets, so I pay them every month.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and pay that one. What I'm gonna do is, if you can get me, I can look back to find out through all of our warrants, how much we put in already.
September through now, 100 each.
Okay, so it did start in September.
Yeah.
And I'll have Norm check to see what we paid last year, because I did talk to Steve. And he said he would make sure that it was gone through the water department from now on. I forget that they do a payment booklet, so it's not that you get a bill, it's just you
Right.
just keep paying it because it's there. So we can approve it and we can pay it, and what we'll do is I'll have Norm tell me what we ended up paying last year, or gallons used. We'll just go ahead, and Steve was fine with this, we'll go ahead and I'll figure that number out.
Okay.
And it may turn out to be that they'll reimburse us some of that again. So if we paid September, October, November,
I think
December,
Norm said
January,
it's
February, March.
600, so
So
700.
we'd be at like 700 now. If it was 600 last time,
That
we'd
was
be
2
close
months
to
ago.
now.
I can't remember.
think, you're right, it's 700 so far, but I think what Norm said was the village paid for one fill-up per year.
Okay.
That was like their.
So what I'll do is
that
I'll-
what he said, David?
Yeah.
One
Okay.
fill.
Is that a 200?
Whatever
Is that a
that
250?
happens to be.
You wouldn't know. Okay. I'll find out what it is. I can get it. But I did talk to him about that, and he said whatever it turns out to be, we'll mesh it up at the end of the year, and if money needs to go one way or the other, we can take care of it.
So you tell me.
So
when
if we,
stop
yep,
now.
we'll approve it on this one, we'll pay this one, and then what I would do, have you sent it out already?
No, you need to approve it.
Okay, so if we stick a little note in there saying, we're at 700, that's roughly what we did last year, we'll not pay the rest of the coupons, switch it over to water department, he'll be good with that, and I'll touch base with him.
Okay, and
After
I
that.
don't know if that's close to last year, I know that's.
Sure,
what we-
and I can find that out. Okay, I can find that out, that's no problem.
So what you're saying is the cost is going to be shared?
Yeah, so what the agreement always was that Norm and the highway department would pay for like the first fill up of the season. And then anything after that, if it needed more, the water department would take care of it. when we entered the payment
Nope.
plans for everything, he just sent out the booklets. And Norm mentioned that, we don't usually pay for the full season, so I went and talked to Steve, he said, yeah, that's right, we have an agreement to just do that, and he said, we can figure it out
Alright.
whenever and stop payment, and
So
so.
what's the-
highway department's already paying one of their own.
Well, see, that's just it. What's really happening here is, and since Norm has built his office around,
Right,
he takes minimum to no heat off of that water department tank.
Right, and
So
his
really, we
feeling
need to
was-
reevaluate the whole
well, his feeling was that the space that his office is in is actually in their building.
It is.
So he said that one fill-up, he considers that rent for the space. And he said he's good with that. Because everything that they've done to shore that up and to insulate and everything out, he said the same thing. He basically has no impact on that building, other than the fact that he uses some of the space.
Okay.
And he said the one fill-up he figured was kind of like.
Because our side is much more energy efficient
Yes.
than theirs.
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah.
We'll work that out.
And that could be something we change moving forward.
What is the reimbursement to the water department for 456?
It's time for me to retire. I put a water department deposit in the village checking account.
So you paid it back to them? Okay. Sorry to bring it up.
Did we ever get the check from the Better Back Roads for that? They owed us $10,000?
Yes,
We did get that?
we did get that.
I didn't get it.
You did if you got your mail today, and if you didn't, you get it tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I just mailed it. I just got it.
That's because they promised they'd have it out in 3 weeks, and now it's 10 months.
But it came.
But it came.
And you're surprised?
It's funny that I knew that because I just mailed that to you. I just got it.
Any other questions about the warrant?
I have three.
Alrighty, I'm ready.
Green Mountain Power, big payment, lights?
Streetlights.
Okay.
That's about it, once a month.
Now, on
Okay.
the streetlights, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but, I have been in contact with Green Mountain, Vermont on changing to LEDs, which will reduce our bill significantly. They have a backlog now of 43 towns and villages, so they're
They
not going
promised us that,
they're not going to get to us till November. But I just want to remind everybody, because come November, we got to start bugging them again.
Yep.
no, come
Come August.
Come
August.
August, yeah.
start bugging me.
Because they said what they will do,
They said we were on the list 2 years ago and that as though there was some list and now
yeah,
we're,
but this has
now
become
we're
very
43rd.
public now, so it's,
That was a different list we were on.
Yeah,
and they
the
do
list
say,
of who gets thrown to the
yeah,
back.
but we never did the whole analysis.
We didn't get our analysis done until the school did it for us.
That is where the fire department gets their fuel for their vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else?
Is express copy for the
It's for the
annual
reports.
reports? Okay. And just curious who West Bank is?
That's a credit card account for fuel that the highway department has.
Oh, is that what you just asked?
Excuse me?
Bill, or were you asking about the,
He asked about Champlain Oil.
Right.
That's
the
the
last
Okay,
one.
yep.
yeah, okay.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept the warrant as presented for $39,641.10.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's a pretty small warrant.
That's why we approved it
Considering
so
what we've
quickly.
been looking at.
I'm sure we'll make up for it.
Well, and 14 of that was delinquent tax payment to North Bennington graded. Okay, the other warrant, payroll warrant.
I'll move we accept the payroll warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Of course.
I'm not gonna keep it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you don't do that. Ask Lori about that. Next, citizen comments. Being that there are no citizens, we won't do that.
Well, actually, I had a couple comments that my husband
Okay.
sent in, if I could.
That's fine.
He's at another meeting. there are two meetings coming up that have to do with railroads. One is on Thursday, April 3rd. It's a public meeting. It's in Arlington, 7 PM at the high school. And it's a chance to comment on the report about bringing passenger service back into this side of this southern Vermont. The report that was done is complete and has been released, and I think can be accessed online at NY-VT Rail Study. And so there'll be that meeting. So that's April 3rd, Thursday, April 3rd, 7 PM at Arlington Memorial High School. The other meeting that's coming up is Vermont is updating its state rail plan. And so people who are interested in that might be interested in attending. And there'll be two meetings somewhat in this area. They're coming up even sooner, March 24th. There's one in Rutland at 6:30, and the 25th in Brattleboro, also at 6:30. The one in Rutland's at the library, and in Brattleboro, the Savings and Loan, the Brattleboro Savings and Loan. So I know George will be at the one on the public meeting in April, and Jim Sullivan, I think, is involved in setting that up. I think George would want to say that we're at the point where we really need to continue to express a lot of desire to have this enthusiasm. This train will come through North Bennington on its way to Rutland. That's the proposal. So, and also, they would propose using the station for, as part of the facility. They'll also be building a new platform over behind the post office.
Do you know, did they ever kind of I know we've been to meetings and had discussions on the plans on that. Did they finalize a plan if they do approve this for use? Did they finalize the plan for the platform? Has that already been approved, or would that be something that it would have to
Go
wait
to the
until they
meeting
actually
and
approve it?
No,
Just curious if you knew. I remember
yeah, well,
it was a while ago.
yeah. George is really the one who's read
If I
through the
may,
study.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of that, even though the report is done, I think a lot of the fine details of something like that are still kind of conceptual.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think they've already applied to purchase or to take
No.
by
No.
domain, you know, the land they're gonna need over here.
Right.
So that means we're already a long ways,
Right, and Congress has to approve the money,
yeah.
and we're
I
on
just
the
wasn't sure
list
if they had
of-
decided that they
so
had
we
a
know where that-
concrete plan, if it did go through yet or not.
Yeah.
Just more curious.
The platform is, has to meet handicapped accessible, so that's.
That's why they can't use this one out
Right,
here.
this isn't a long enough area to do that,
And I know
but,
the sight line had something to do with it too, because of the
The curve.
turn here, they had to have a
Curve,
longer
yeah.
straightaway.
yeah.
It's too bad that they have to, but the upshot of this is that in that plan, they did put forth some budgeted money to, one, make this building usable from their standpoint and hopefully improve its longevity and general health. Above and beyond what you've already done, which is fantastic.
So George and Jim will be at the meeting, but it would be great to have someone else, and it's hard for George and I to get to the same meetings, the way our life is. So if there's someone else who'd be interested in
I've attended some of
attending.
those. I've got it in my calendar. Hopefully I
Okay.
can do it.
Yeah, I just made an email myself to get a hold of George and ask him some questions.
Oh, okay.
Is that it for citizens' comments? Highway facilities, Norm couldn't make it tonight. Trying to think, I can probably relay some some of the news. Not sure any of it's good. We did have a catastrophic failure of the cam on the engine of the trackless machine, our sidewalk machine. And Norm and Zach took that out. There's not that many people who really know their way around those machines. They took the motor out, delivered it to an outfit down in Massachusetts who has looked it over and has provided some options for repair. Those options are the $2,500 option or the $7,000 option range. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, something like that.
Keep in mind that we've had that machine for 4 years. It cost us 10 grand to buy one of those new that are $100,000. So we've done all right by it. Norm has also acquired a mower attachment that will go on that or hopefully for next to nothing. So it was our belief probably that we should go ahead and fix that. We bought that as an alternative to buying a new John Deere type that would have been, I think, in the $18,000 or $20,000 range, and not as versatile and not as this has it's got sweepers to get all that gravel off those sidewalks now. It's got a snow blower and a snow plow. They used the blower some this year, and it was really very effective in getting the snow. So I think it's a we have to do it kind of thing. This is not the spring to be doing it. There's some thought of, this storm tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a drag. They're upping the predictions again a little bit, but they can probably they're going to have to get by without it because it's taken apart, but maybe we can get through this spring without it and then budget the repairs for next fiscal year. Or maybe we can negotiate a deal to at least bill on that.
Defer payment.
Defer payment. The only problem there is Norm's like, look, we're focused on this, we need to get it done. They're gonna get, gonna hit the ground running with whatever's happening this summer, and you wanna make sure that it does get taken care of.
Was the option that the outfit that has it now was gonna do the repairs, or is this
Yes.
something they give, okay?
They'll, I don't know how much you wanna know, but the camshaft broke. And when that happens, the timing gears get out of whack, and when that happens, the valves.
Valves are gone,
But usually, in these old Continental engines, it's not that bad, like on a high-end Honda performance engine. Then, in those cases, all the valves disintegrate. 3 push rods are bent, which are indicative that at least 3 of the valves were hit. You have the head off the thing anyway. You do a full valve job. It makes it all good and new, and they will have to get down to the bottom end of the engine and take a look to make sure that there wasn't any damage down there. And so that was kind of the range, we might get into something more. Do you want new bearings on the lower, but it looks like that guy isn't gonna be able to get to this instantly, and so we can have that discussion about how far we wanna go. I think I know enough about that kind of stuff that I feel comfortable making that determination after hearing what the full diagnosis is, but I'll be happy to talk to y'all about it. And Norm, too, will have his own opinion, too, about it.
Yeah, well, I think when he talked to me, he made it clear that it was, we have a useful piece of equipment that we're kind of reliant on, that we can either, if we don't repair it, it's not worth anything.
Not worth anything.
So even if we were to get rid of that, we need to bring it back into operation before we could sell it and do anything else.
So-
And we can't do without
And we can't do
something
without
similar.
something.
So we've
And
got-
we've actually improved on a lot of the things, old time wear and tear that was on it, when we knew that we'd had to deal with when we bought it, so. So there's that. we've been able to, help out some other communities who have run into some issues with salt. Everybody's has salt issues, except that Norm had pre-bought a lot of salt. And so he's been able to actually, make a deal with a couple, with Daly's and maybe Arlington. The hospital needed more salt. Negotiated, that we'll sell you that salt for what we paid for it, and there might be another favor coming back the other way, so he's made, I think, some good,
There might, or,
well, no, I mean, I think it was.
There will be.
You'll do this, and,
yeah, good.
and so that's good. And the reason being is you don't really wanna sit all summer on several tons of salt.
Right.
It sublimates, it gets wet,
There's
it's,
some loss.
so. And it's goodwill, for sure. Anybody, anything else? I mean, I was away, and so I don't, it's been a hell of a winter. It's been just, I mean, I think our salt budget is blown by 70% or more.
Yeah, I saw those numbers today.
I mean, some of that's gonna come back, which is nice, and that was the other reason to sell some of it. But, they've been working hard. They've got a lot of comp time that they need to deal with, and, I'm urging them to find creative ways of doing that so that we don't run into any surprises about what their expectations might be.
No, they've done a great job this winter. They really have. It's not been a fun winter. So if anybody sees them driving around, give them a nice wave.
And when I really was questioning how they were gonna handle the intersection, they did a fabulous job.
Yep.
Short of one incident with the granite curbing, other than that,
Oh,
it looks good, and the ability to, I think when we do get to doing that beveling and stuff
Yeah.
that we wanna do, it's gonna make it easier for the plow to ride up on it, and,
But it's great for walking. I mean, they do a job, they really keep the sidewalks nice, which
Yep.
is, you don't see that in many villages.
yeah. One of his, he feels, wished he didn't have to do, but because of the salt crisis and the potential of, he's gone to a lot more, sand in mixing with the salt,
Right.
which I think is the way to go all the time, but his point is,
Makes for more work now.
imagine the cleanup, and you walk down the sidewalks, and, I mean, they're almost dangerous from just having so much grit on them. And all of that you don't get picked up ends up in the drop inlets that we spend money to
Now, we
suck
have the
out,
same
so
problem at Haviland's Privilege. We spend the money on sand, and then we spend as much in the spring to clean it up.
clean it up, yeah. But it's cheaper because we actually get it virtually free, and to use the sand, but, it has its drawbacks.
Better on the environment too.
It is.
The storm runoff.
Yep. Short of him not having mentioning anything else, we'll move on. Development Review Board, they met do you want to update, or?
No, go ahead.
They met last week to approve a lot line adjustment, which is really kind of a subdivision on this parcel of land that the Green Mountain Power is selling to us, the village. And that is how many acres?
I'm not sure what it was.
It's not very much, but the strip of land between the power station, substation down as you go over to River Road or Harrington, past Country Corner on the left, there's a parcel there that was still owned by Green Mountain that they didn't really need. And this had been approached back when CVPS had it. There was talks of doing it 10 years ago. It never happened. And so they came back to us. What we found out is because Gail and Marty had a parcel of land that they sold to the Fund for North Bennington, I don't know how many years ago.
Maybe 10?
Yeah. That's a little piece that's next to it, between
Right,
the LaFontaine house, the house that basically separates our park from this other land. And because this parcel is adjacent now to that parcel that the Fund for North Bennington turned over to the village, we just really have to move that line. And it was a simple thing, everybody approved it. we'll be writing up the contracts, and we'll have that land probably this month.
Will that be staked, like clearly staked at some point? 'Cause,
Staked?
like, will there be pins that'll be
Yes.
recognizable and we'll know
In
where they are?
fact, it has been, I believe, surveyed and ground-proofed by David Mance, too.
Okay, and
So
are there currently pins on where all that is, or?
I've
do you
seen
know?
some flagging tape, anyway.
Okay.
Pins might be I don't think he probably placed new pins. You know, you have maps, there may be a pin, he probably worked off a pin that exists over at the CVPS corner or something. Just with respect to getting in there and doing some stuff?
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
get Dave Denson there, to kind of, I mean, that's right up his alley, just to take if nothing else, to give us a kind of an
no,
idea of what could happen down there and what he could do initially with his crew, to even just, if they could use it just as an educational environment
It's
that
full
will eventually lead to something that we can do, that'd be great as well.
It's full of invasive honeysuckle, and we
Yep.
would just soon get it out of there. And I was talking with Marty the other day, and, you know, there's an eagle that spends a lot of time there, but an osprey as well on occasion. Why not put up an osprey box or platform, nesting platform down by the river? We can really improve that habitat a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a view, and right now you look down in there and it's,
It could probably lead right into maybe another section of the edible forest
Yeah.
as well, because it
it's
right now,
already
what they've
mature
got.
shade and stuff, so you can move
Right,
into a different
and what they have
form.
now is kind of the open field
Yep.
concept, and that could be kind of another,
Bring it
yeah.
on.
so we've got to get together as the Park and Rec.
And there's a website now that you can go and find out nationally where there are nuts, fruits, and berries and whatnot that are ripe in that time, that are on public lands, you know, for the purpose of
Yep.
foraging. Seattle's building a massive, one of these sustainable gardens for that purpose of people being able to go to the park and eat, you know. So that's the only thing they did, I think. There wasn't much to that. Water Board, don't know anything there. I have been, Steve Goodrich has been kind enough to make contact with me, because I've failed to do so, and we've had a few conversations to just kind of keep communication open between the two departments, and we've met a few times, and I think we both appreciate that line of communication. New business? Anybody?
I'm
I
not sure.
had something for fire department.
Okay.
Their annual dinner that they've invited all of us to is on April 12th.
Thank you.
April 12th?
And I'm not sure of the time.
Well, it's a great event. More food than you know what to do with, so I urge you all to go.
So where's that, where do they hold it?
It's at the
Probably in Greenwall, but.
Greenwall
Or could be the Student
Auditorium.
Center, one of the two. Yeah, one of the two places, Student Center or Greenwall, I'm not sure. That's usually where they
It
do
was Greenwall last two times.
I thought it was a student center 2 years ago.
It was. It was Student Center 2 years ago, and last year it was in Greenwall.
Yeah.
Greenwell?
So who knows? I guess it could be other places.
Love to dig out your invitations here.
Yeah, if I brought the invitations, we'd all know, wouldn't we? I will try to remember to email you guys the particulars there.
I'm not sure whether this would fall under new business. Are we going to talk about the upcoming meeting, the village
annual meeting?
meeting somewhere?
To what degree? I mean, do you want to discuss the items on the agenda, or do we want to
Well,
just encourage people to come and read
Yeah,
their, if you have not received, if anybody in the audience has not received this, where could they maybe get them without bothering
I
you?
dropped off multiple copies today at Powers Market, the library,
I saw them at
the
the post
post
office, yeah, I
office,
saw them at the post office today, there's several there.
the corner store, North Bennington
Yeah.
Variety Store. There's a pile in the lobby at the school.
Good. It's-
And I believe that we've put them
Covered.
at each residence.
Super. it's quite a task, and I appreciate
It
for,
is.
Yeah.
for you doing that.
I just wanted to share that I'd like to give a brief report, an update on where things are with the charter review. And the report shouldn't be very long, but really would like to try to recruit some help on that, yeah.
So if there's anybody who's interested in delving into the history of the village charter and how it applies to us today and thinking about ways to make it more efficient, maybe we want to remove some things, maybe we want to add some things. It's a one-shot deal, kind of, because you got to take it to the legislature and have it approved. I know there's some town up north that's been having fights back and forth about this, and they show up at the legislature about every year, and they're finally like, go away. We, figure it all out and come back, and we'll deal with this. They're busy enough.
No, and I think you bring up a good point, that and it's not just the enormity of the project, it's the nature of the project. Is the more people working on it, the better the result's gonna be.
That's right.
I think a lot of different eyes on it is gonna be valuable.
There we go. Yeah, that's at 7:30 Tuesday, next Tuesday, at the North Bennington the Village School auditorium, 7:30 PM on the 18th. And it's a lot of fun. Come on down. These are very fun to read, frankly. There's reports, if you've got any interest in what's going on in the community, there's the dry stuff about the budgets for the water department or for the village. But then anybody who we, as a village, offer funds to for their various needs, Park McCullough House or the Sage City Symphony or whatever, they'll have a report about how their year went. We've provided some information about the intersection project and that whole debacle, so it's worth a read. Please read it. Anything else in the new? Anything in the old?
I've got a quick one in old. I just spoke to George Larago last weekend, I believe. He did find a signboard. It came in a little more pricey than he had originally thought, I think. And they were very generous in the amount that they're going to give, so I told him if we could wait until the end of this fiscal year, then Park and Rec could take care of whatever the remainder would be. So they're donating up to $400, and we would cover whatever over that for the sign.
Yep.
The signboard. And he was also interested in our input and anybody else's input on what should potentially be on that signboard. Obviously, things like the history of the park and how it came to be would be good. I think they're already addressing the historic value of that. That was approved too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there'll be a permanent, historical placard there
Right.
regarding the revolutionary aspect of
Yeah,
it.
so it may not need to
To
go into
much of
that, to double up on that, but kind of the history of how the park came to be and kind of what's there and what's offered and,
Yep.
so he was interested in kind of input on what we might think about putting on there.
Maybe any, I hate to say rules, but just conditions of use or
Yeah.
things like that.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
That should be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Big
the
letters.
common sense, respectful
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that nobody
About
seems to
trash
have.
and things like that.
Yeah.
I had two quick notes, and one of them, you already mentioned that I wanted to thank Jonah for putting together the application, and we did get it for the wayside signage, which is great, so thank you, Jonah. And I don't know if you're gonna touch on the ordinances, but I actually came back
Well-
with a comment for you.
Okay, well, I did have that when I,
I'll wait for you.
yeah, okay.
That was it, yep.
Well, last month, I distributed copies of the Bennington ordinance on solid waste disposal, which included a section on open burning. and asked folks if they could read it through and if we might be ready for a discussion on what we might want to do with it at this point. I chose this one because this is what got us started, really, on doing an ordinance review.
I was wondering as I read it, because we already use the Bennington, what do they call that now? It's not the landfill anymore.
Transfer station.
Transfer station, thank you.
Yeah,
I would assume a lot of these already apply to us.
I think so, yeah.
Because as I was reading, and I mean, to me, it seemed like it was a very straightforward and pretty easy to kind of fit right in. Nothing in here seemed to me to be anything that we would disagree with.
Yeah.
I didn't know what your comment was, but as I was reading, it seemed like it was pretty straightforward and pretty understandable.
I was kind of the same, we find adopting this, especially because it's in alignment with Bennington, and it seems to be what we're already doing, and I only had one minor comment on Article 8, so it's 88.01, it's the first one. It says, except as provided in this section, the burning of any solid waste, I would remove the word solid, only because I wouldn't put it liquids beyond people. I've just learned not to rule things out. So I would just omit that one word, and I'm happy with the whole thing the way it is.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Thanks for sending this to me, by the way, since I wasn't at the meeting.
But do you think they intentionally put that in
Solid
there?
waste might have a specific,
Well, they have all the definitions in the beginning. I don't know, I wonder if they intentionally put that in there because that's what this applies to.
Yeah,
and whether they
it
have
could
to-
be.
Because the
I'd
other
wanna
thing,
look-
as
I'd
I was
wanna
reading
ask
it,
them.
I realized that somebody,
napalm's not
whoever
solid.
wrote this has some kind of I mean, they had this legally written up, because half the words they use in there, I don't use on a daily basis. So I'm wondering if
Yeah.
a lot of the way they word things is to,
Well, I think
basically
there are
because they
model
technically-
policies out there
Yeah,
that,
this all
that people
comes
draw
off of-
upon,
off of-
yeah.
yeah.
Solid waste means any solid waste is defined by Title 10 BSA, Section 662.
So I wonder if they have to use that in there.
Right, and do we want to include liquid waste? Only because you want somebody out there burning a 55-gallon drum of waste oil off.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point.
I
I would,
just-
instead of getting rid of, instead of solid, I would add liquid.
I
Add that
would too.
too.
I think that's better.
Okay.
But I think, now this is Bennington's, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If we want them to enforce, though, we
I was
have to
gonna say.
adopt it as is. I don't think we can change it.
Okay.
Well,
Doesn't
they-
mean we can change it to fit our own, but that would just mean that they would
They
not
will
be
not
willing
enforce.
to. And I'm not sure that we really need them to enforce this for us anyway.
It makes it easier, though. I mean, no, but if we have a problem and the police get
No, if we
involved,
end
it
up
makes it
with
easier.
issues-
We
No,
have exactly the
this
same one.
was, I
right.
mean,
This was
we
the
were
deal with the-
recommending to the parties involved to contact the police.
Yep. So I think,
If
yeah, I don't think we can
they felt there was a
change it.
violation.
Then that's fine with me. I just adopt it as is if we can move to doing that at
Maybe,
some
maybe
point in
they'll
time.
think to, when they update it, to change it.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like it was,
Or Dan sitting
Are
there
we-
laughing at me now.
Are we comfortable enough? What's a procedure for adopting this? When is our next kind of redo of the,
Well,
you know, the,
I have, I've shared that I have a copy of all of Bennington's ordinances. And I have had a chance to read through and do my own sifting of what seemed to be relevant to to life here in the village and what we didn't, might need not to. So once the annual meeting's behind us, I'd like to have us take a look at the whole package and talk to Paul Doucette. And we talked about inviting him
Yeah.
in terms of how to, you know, what's.
what's gonna be easiest for them and make their, what are they willing to do and what can they do in terms of
Now,
enforcement?
now, when you look at things that you think don't apply, are these the type of things that you feel would have to be taken out? Or could they just be left and not be an issue? I'm just thinking the simpler you
Oh.
can keep it for the police department.
Right,
say,
so that they
okay.
don't have to figure out if we actually have that one, yeah.
Oh, well,
So they're not going through, well, I better check this, and then, you know. and
Oh.
then they-
oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I guess
Well, that would be the
That's the
reason why we get
discussion.
together.
That's what we've got to figure out.
Discussion whether we want to just adopt the whole thing, or whether we want to adopt, and the ones we don't adopt, we don't
Yeah, I would think that
enforce.
if there's,
we
unless
could
there's
do that.
something that contradicts something that,
No, but
we
we
have
need
in
to talk
place,
to
then
them,
it
because if
would-
they
it would
think
make
it's
sense
just
to
gonna
adopt the whole
complicate
thing.
things unless you adapt the whole thing, we may just say, okay,
Yeah.
we adapt it.
I didn't bring the table of contents, but like, for instance, there's a whole set on their sewer treatment
Right.
process, and we don't have, that, they have that, that's their, yeah, right,
But see,
right.
for that standpoint, it just wouldn't apply to us.
That's right.
And so it stays in, you know, it can stay there, maybe, just as a, to keep the document whole.
Right.
And obviously, there's nothing that,
Now, of course, they'll continue to adopt ordinances.
That's right.
They just made a change the last month or so around the.
well, I wonder
public
then,
voting.
once we are in line with theirs, we could ask to be, anytime you would make an adjustment to this, can we get sent a copy of the new adjustment so we can review it? I mean, I'm sure they would, sure they'd be willing to do that. It'd be simple.
Yeah.
For us to adopt an ordinance, that's a fairly simple process, right?
Well,
It's just
Or is it
time.
not?
There's a.
you got a warrant,
It's the when, you have to
You
notice it.
have to
and then-
notice, you have to do a public
Procedure for
notice,
warnings
yeah.
or postings and
Okay.
all that.
my only
But it's
concern
like
about that
45 days or something like
Yeah,
that.
is the clarification that we got was, we will enforce items that you adopt from their ordinances, bylaws. If we adopt the whole thing, I mean, what we've been saying, and this is just a political positioning, but what we've been saying is, we don't want to be applied to all of your things. We're a separate community in that sense. We want to be able to, and their argument may well be, well, actually, you are part of our community. You are part of Bennington. You can have an opposition to an ordinance, but really, if we go as far as to
We are
adopt
in
the
the
whole thing,
town, so-
the next thing could be, you are now subject to anything we do in the future. I'm just,
Oh, that can also be a question, but, yeah, that can be a question that we.
and that may
we
not
put
be a
to
bad
them.
thing,
Right.
but I,
Because
you know,
the
I
last
can't
time we
think,
went through this, we got the reverse reaction, where they said even if you adopted it, they didn't have time to enforce it. So, I
think we're at a different time now.
I think we've come a long way
Sure.
to saying, or at least they're willing to enforce if we adopt it. Where before, it was like, you can adopt if you want to, but it's not gonna mean anything.
we're not talking about a huge taxing of the resource of the police, Maybe, there's been,
Of which we pay taxes
of which
for.
we
We're entitled
pay
to, yes.
for, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then let's plan on the meeting following the annual meeting,
Yeah.
or do you want to start a committee? You want to do an ad hoc thing? What do you
That
wanna
may
do?
be something, though, that might be an additional, maybe, I don't know if that's something we can tackle in a regular meeting, is it?
Well, I think we all need to read it independently, right?
Yeah.
Familiarize ourselves.
Right, now, unfortunately, I don't have an electronic copy of these ordinances. I have a
How
hard
thick is it?
copy.
It's a lot, it's
Oh, is it a
huge.
lot?
Yeah, it's like a 3-ring binder that's not closed all the way.
That's the one that you can buy down there for, don't they have a copy of that you can buy?
Oh, I don't know.
$35.
I don't know.
have an electronic copy?
They may, when I ask for it, yeah. They might,
You
yeah.
did ask, and they gave
No, when I just asked for the ordinances and
Okay, they gave you the-
they copied from their hard copy,
Okay. That's gotta be digitized by now.
yeah, okay.
Maybe ask.
Can ask Dan.
Ask Dan, yeah. He'll know.
Now that he's assistant, he should be doing more work.
Yeah, and it is a huge thing. It may make sense to break it out into 5 pieces so that we can all
Come
really
with a different,
spend a little time on our individual sections.
But it'd be interesting to talk to the police and see what their feeling is and what's the best way to go about this from their point of view.
Right, ahead of time. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
'Cause
Before we
it's
put
been
any,
difficult for them to keep their files up to date on North Bennington and Bennington, I can understand that. And then
Old Bennington.
personnel
Brothers,
changes and they got Old Bennington and they get scattered and.
And when I did speak with Paul, he was saying that they've found that the courts have been more exacting about enforcing ordinances. I mean, they're the police are enforcing, but then they have to take a case to court. And
And the court
and
is
I-
standing behind the ordinance.
right, they have, there's a, you know, as you read through this, there's a lot of very
Reference to
specific
statute.
detail that needs to go into them. It's, that's why they don't want to, one reason why they don't want to be enforcing ordinances that aren't
Clear or.
clear, yeah, right.
Yeah, I
Right.
fully understand. Well, so let's plan on the agenda for the next meeting to, if we by then can have an electronic copy, we will then break it out into some, and assign sections to review and to make comment and to bring forth that then in another time.
Okay.
And maybe somewhere in between that time is when we would meet with Paul and kind of see then
Yeah.
what can and cannot, from his perspective, be done.
Yeah, and it's understandable too, when you look at how big the document is, that having the police department have to know two of those. And where the line is a little daunting.
I think one reason I wanted to circulate this one is that we had come up with one that we weren't sure whether had been adopted, that was different. Or, so if we go in this direction,
It's
this.
gonna be much clearer.
Yes, but there was some, I think the other one led to some questions about whether any burning was allowed,
That's right.
right? And
Well, this one makes it
this is
clear there really
clearly
is no
that
burning
within-
unless you have a permit,
Right.
and it lists the things that can be burnt.
Yeah, so
And
it's a great.
and I did look up who can issue permits, because they talk about fire wardens, and in villages, it's the fire chief
Yeah.
who fills that function.
At least we've been doing that right.
Right,
And if we adopt this, it looks like their fire chief could then just say, well, if somebody from North Bennington calls him, he would refer them to our fire chief.
yeah. Okay,
It may well be that we will review the entire ordinances of the town of Bennington and decide that there's nothing there that we have a problem with. I'm not exactly sure that'll be the case, but if it is, it will, that's the kind of streamlining from an economic and just personnel and all that we should be exploring. It's not as confusing as it appears really in some cases, just because this is their book and this is our book. It's not like there's two big books of.
Right.
But why, I'm not gonna hold on to something just because it's quaint, I want it to be functional.
And then from there, we just gotta make sure we remember
Well, you
where
need
the
to be on
copies
the-
are. Who
Exactly.
we give the copies to, what the process was.
be on the charter committee, Matthew. There, you'll get quaint.
Well, thank you for that report. Is there any other old business? And I don't believe we have a need for an executive session. Do we? We were gonna do that hearing. Is that something we would do
We can do it.
it wasn't warned, but we probably didn't warn it after the fact of last week. Well, let's just wait. I mean, it seems almost de facto. We've already, the school,
It has to be done.
but it has to be done.
Right,
But it's just a formality, really.
it's, right, it's just a permit. I mean, you can authorize me to issue the check. I mean, we know that it has to be done. There's no question in terms of,
And then we would just be, I'm fine with that. Having been part of the school side of that abatement on the same property,
right.
it seems,
It's it's just you know, we have to refund a portion based on, you know, the pre-fire, they pay the full amount, and then after the fire, you know, we can.
It was adjusted.
The assessed value is lower, so, and the town has assessed it at a lower rate, so we're obligated to refund them plus a small amount of interest.
So how about a motion to authorize Gail to finalize all that for the owners who are, you know, need not to be subject to our disorganization? We might as well let, you know,
I'll
get them
make that
solved.
motion.
Second?
Because the school check is gonna go out on Thursday, so it would be nice if I could
Yeah.
just send a village check and the calculation along.
So would this be an amendment to our warrant? Is that what we're doing, basically?
I'll put it on the next warrant.
We'll have to put it on the next one,
Okay.
just for evidence that it happened,
Right.
Right.
but we're really kind of doing the business part of it here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good idea. I hadn't really thought of that as an
Should
option.
we try to, so we do have to have the hearing itself though, right? And it's gotta be warned?
I don't think.
Or do we not have to
I
then?
mean, there's no other abatements that are being, you know, that are part of the village or that have been asked for, so,
Okay,
I mean, you don't have to hold one unless it's
okay.
Unless it's
requested.
contested or something. Okay.
Well, then I don't think we need an executive session, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn. I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So we're gonna get a big stone tomorrow?
Now they're back up to 7 to 11.